Find a space. All you need is 2 by 6 feet. We will move through several poses here. When we get into a pose, we will stay there for several breaths to generate heat in the body and to practice our Ujjayi breath. These postures will help you open up your chest and your shoulders and strengthen your back, arms, and core muscles. And move with your breath, giving you an all-over physical and mental reset. Come onto your hands and knees on your mat. Separate your knees a little bit, then your hips, and bring your toes together. Gently draw your hips to your heels, resting your forehead on the mat. Extend your arms out in front of you. Let your elbows rest on the floor. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths here. As you settle into the space and into your breath, take a moment to tune into gratitude for yourself, for taking this time for you and your practice. Walk your hands towards the front of your mat, and lifting your chest up slowly, start to walk your hands to the right side of your mat. Take a few breaths here. In and out of your nose. Really focus on the breath. Lift your chest up slightly and walk your hands to the left side. Take the same amount of breaths on this side, feeling the expansion of your side body. Mindfully walk your hands back to center and sink down back into child's pose. Come onto your hands and knees. Take your hands one full handprint in front of your shoulders, lining up your hands so they are shoulder width distance. If you're tighter in your shoulders, you can take your hands a bit wider and even turn them out slightly toward the edges of your mat. Spread your fingers wide apart. Root down through the whole of each hand. Feel a lift rising through your arms. With your knees and feet hip width distance apart, tuck your toes under and lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. Ideally, this position looks like an inverted V, but if you're tighter in your hamstrings, you'll want to keep your knees slightly bent. You can even come up on your toes to let your core drop down towards your thighs. Really let your chest sink down to the ground. Find a stretch in your shoulders. Mindfully pushing your shoulders away from your ears. Feel free to pedal your legs, bending one knee and straightening the opposite leg a few times back and forth to warm up the hamstrings and the calf muscles. Breathing here. In and out of your nose, if you can, engaging in Ujjayi breath. Ujjayi breath, or pranayama, builds heat in the body and allows us to begin to move more freely and engage more flexibility in our muscles and tendons. From down dog, shift your shoulders forward so they stack directly on top of your wrists. Keep your torso parallel to the floor. Lift your navel towards your spine and lift your chin slightly so you're looking toward the front edge of the mat. Firm your thigh muscles. There should be a string of energy from the top of your head going out the ends of your heels. Breathing here, in and out of your nose. You may notice that your breath may be audible, which is a good thing. Now, moving with your breath, shift back and forth between down dog and plank. In each inhalation, move into plank, remembering to shift your gaze slightly forward. And on each exhalation, move into downward facing dog. Move with your breath and feel the strength in your arms, shoulders, and core. I like to really focus on movement through the core of the body because that is what brings us stability and strengthens our back and hip muscles, our core and pelvis muscles. And these are all stabilizers in the body. After a few breaths, on your exhale, come to plank. From plank pose, slowly lower down to your belly. And if you need to, come onto your knees first, then down to your belly, and prop yourself up onto your forearms and place your elbows under your shoulders so your forearms are in two straight parallel lines, shoulder width distance apart. Plant your palms face down. Spread your fingers and root down from your fingertips to your elbows, feeling your forearms grounding down into your mat. You can almost give the sensation of pulling forward to lengthen and stretch through the back of your spine and lift through your chest. Keep your feet and legs hip distance apart and root down with all parts of your body that are in contact with the floor. Your hips, your toes, your elbows, and your hands. Feel the engagement of the muscles that lengthen your spine and see if you can now lift your heart a bit higher. Inhale to lengthen and exhale to sink deeper. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, sink deeper. After a few deep breaths here, lower your chest down. Shift your hands back by the sides of your chest and lift up and back into downward facing dog. Really breathe here. Engage your Ujjayi breath, an audible breath. The Ujjayi breath feels as though you're trying to fog up a mirror with your breath. And then close your mouth and do it through the nose. Focusing on the breath is a great way to get into the body and let the world drift away. Walk your feet forward from down dog until they are hip width distance apart at the front of the mat. Fold forward over your legs. Look at your feet and line them up so the inner edges of your feet are two straight parallel lines. If you're feeling tight in the backs of your legs, or if you feel any pulling on your low back, bend your knees. Make sure to keep your knees hip distance apart if you are looking to bend your knees, or maybe a micro bend in the knees, or you can really sink down deep and let your torso rest on your thighs. Allow your upper body to hang down over your legs and begin to sway side to side, moving with your breath. You can feel the stretch on the right side, on the left side. Shake your head yes and no. You can place your fingertips on the floor or hold on to opposite elbows here in your ragdoll. If you are feeling up to it, you can add a twist here. Bend your left knee and keep your left fingertips on the floor, and extend your right hand up to the ceiling. Your gaze will be over the right shoulder if it doesn't bother your neck, and if not, then the gaze is down towards the ground. Open your shoulder and breathe across your chest. Release your right hand down and move to the second side. After a few breaths here, come back to center and fold over your legs again. Keep your feet and knees hip-width distance apart. Start to bend your knees, shifting your weight to the back of the heels. On the inhale, lift your chest up and take your gaze straight out in front of you. Bring your arms to the side and then reach out to the back corners of your mat. Moving with the breath, keep your knees bent as if you're continuing to sit in a chair. And on the inhalation, lift your arms and chest a little higher. On the inhalation, you can bring your arms up towards the sky. And on the exhalation, you can bring them back down by your sides. Repeat this movement with the breath. Two more. On the exhale, forward fold. Inhale and rise up onto your fingertips. Step your left foot to the back edge of your mat. Place your knee to the floor and lunge forward. Walk your hands onto your front thigh. We should be in a low lunge here with our knee on the ground, lunging deeply into the other knee. And then lift your torso so that it's an upright vertical position and extend your arms overhead. Spread your fingers wide and reach your hands towards the ceiling. Moving to a side stretch, start to lean over to the right, extending your right hand towards the floor. If you can't touch the floor, place your elbow onto your knee or place your right hand onto a block on the outside of your right leg. It doesn't have to be a block, it can be any object in the house. It could be books, blanket, table, couch. Reach your left arm up over your ear, extending your left fingertips toward the right side of the room. Lift your chin slightly and keep your gaze and jaw soft. Maybe even smile a little bit. Take a few breaths here and then come back to center before moving on to the second side. I will give you a few moments here. Remember to stay with your breath. You should be in a position where your right foot is back and your left foot is now in front in a low lunge. And slowly and carefully come out of this position, and eventually we will meet together at the top of our mats, standing in mountain position. We are upright. Chest is open towards the sky and palms are facing forward. Roll your pelvis under and engage your core and root through the four corners of each of your feet. When it seems like you're just standing there, it's actually quite a difficult position. Make sure your shoulders are engaged and pushing away from the ears. From where you are at the top of your mat in mountain pose or Tadasana, on an exhale, step your left foot back about 3 to 4 feet. This is dependent on the length of your legs and the level of openness in your hips. Some might be shorter and some might be longer. Place your left foot parallel to the short edge of your mat at a 90-degree angle and line up the heel of your right foot with the heel of your left foot. Press down firmly through the pinky toe edge of your back foot to avoid collapsing into the arch of the foot. On an inhale, extend your arms out alongside your body, raising them parallel to the floor with your palms facing down. Send your gaze just over the middle finger of your right hand and relax your shoulders down and away from the ears. Bend deeply into your right knee. It doesn't have to be very deep, but if you're looking for a challenge, you can bend deeply, making sure that the knee does not come over the ankle. And we now come into our Warrior Two position. So the knee stacks directly over the right ankle, bringing your shin perpendicular to the floor. Also be mindful of the knee bowing to the left or the right. You want the knee to be pointed out towards the second and third toes. Find the action of slightly scooping your tailbone under and opening your pelvis to face the left side of your mat. Draw your low ribs into your body and keep your core gently engaged. Continue pressing through the pinky toe edge of your back foot, particularly through the outer edge of the heel. Remain in this pose for a few more breaths. And then on the inhale, straighten your front leg and begin to reach your right arm towards the front of the mat, shooting your hips backward, finding a really intense stretch in your hips until you can't reach anymore, and then send your right arm down towards your knee, your shin, your ankle, the floor, or a piece of furniture. This is triangle pose. Make sure that your core is strong and that you're not collapsing through the chest. So lift up to the chest if that is happening to you. You can bring your left arm up towards the sky or to your hips. And your gaze can be towards the ground It can be forward or up towards your left hand. I had a yoga teacher in college. The way that she described it to me was, pretend like you're a pane of glass in between two cement walls. Breathe deeply into the hips. You can find balance and stability with your breath. On an inhale, use your core to come up and step your left foot to the front of the mat. Warrior 2 on the right side. So send your right foot back about 3 to 4 feet, and your right foot is parallel to the back edge of the mat, and you're rooting down through the back edge of your right foot. Your arms come up to shoulder height, and your shoulders are pushing down away from the ears. Your arms are engaged. Envision light coming out of your fingertips, and that you're super proud of it. Your left knee bends at a 90-degree angle, making sure that your knee is pointing towards your second and third toes of your left foot. And this is a very prideful, strong position. So let your chest shine forward, and you might smile, even though it might be strange because you're all alone. But we can generate our own happiness. On the inhale, straighten your left leg and reach your left hand towards the front of the room. Reaching until you can't reach anymore. Shooting your hips back, having a very strong stretch through the left hamstring and hips. And then place your palm, your left palm, on a knee, on your shin, whatever feels comfortable to you. And we find ourselves in triangle pose on the opposite side, making sure that you're not collapsing down through the torso or the chest. Take a moment to open your chest up. You can take your arm up to the sky. You can place your right arm on the hip. On the inhale, lengthen, and then on the exhale, settle into the pose. A few more breaths here. On the inhale, use your abs and your core to come up and step your right foot to the front of the mat. There are 2 more poses today before we settle back into child's pose and then our final resting place in Savasana. So continue to engage your breath, your ujjayi breath, your audible breath through the nose. And come down onto your hands and knees in tabletop position. We are going to do some modified side planks. So in tabletop, kickstand your right foot straight, so your foot is flat on the ground, and begin to roll open your chest and your torso to the right side. As your right hand comes off the mat, you can send your right arm up towards the sky or up overhead towards the front of the room. Your left knee is on the ground, so if you have any knee issues, please be gentle with yourself. Place a blanket or a pillow underneath your knees. I have a gardening mat that I like to use. You can use the outer edge of your right foot and the stability of your left knee to open up through the right side of the body. You can really breathe into the ribs here. On an inhale, bring your arm back to center, bring your right leg in and back to tabletop. We will do the same thing on the other side. So send your left foot back straight and plant it on the ground and start to roll your torso open. And as your left hand comes off the ground, it can come up towards the sky or up by your ear so that it is reaching towards the front of your mat. Your right knee is grounded into the ground, but you're using the leverage from your left foot and the grounding of your right knee to find lengthening and stretching through the left side of the body. Your gaze can be forward or up towards your arm. And on an exhale, release back into tabletop position. Come down to your belly. We're going to do a variation of Locust pose, which is a nice stretch and strengthener for your spine and your sacrum. Extend your arms behind your back and clasp your hands together if you can. If not, your arms can just be reaching towards the back. And then on an inhalation, lift your chest and legs up. Push your hips into the floor and take your gaze slightly forward without crunching your neck. You can reach your clasped hands or your hands reaching backwards towards your heels and lift your arms up slightly. Hold here for a few breaths. And on an exhalation, release and rest your ear to one side. Your arms are by your sides. We will repeat this 2 more times. So on an inhale, lift your chest and your legs up. Keep your chest and your legs lifting about the same height. If you're clasping your hands, you can try and reach your clasped hands towards the back of the mat. Remember to push your shoulders down away from the ears. And on an exhalation, release. One more time. On an inhale, come up. Breathe here. And on an exhale, come down. Bring your big toes to touch and widen your knees and shoot your hips back into child's pose. Let your torso sink down in between your knees. I really prefer this position over keeping the knees together, just because it really allows lengthening through the side of the body and the spine. If you'd like a stretch in the shoulders, you can reach your arms out front on your fingertips. And when you're pushing down through your fingertips, you can feel the stretch in the shoulders. Once you're ready, come onto your back into our final resting pose, Savasana. You can finally let go of your breath here. Just let it go. Make sure your shoulder blades are tucked under a little bit and your tailbone is tucked under slightly. And let your feet drape open. Your eyes soft. Your mouth can be closed or slightly open. Really focus on the gratitude that you have that you showed up today and made some time for yourself. Rest here for a couple minutes. Start to wiggle your toes and your fingers. You can reach your arms overhead. Take a big, deep breath in. Begin to awaken the body. Take all the time you need. Roll over to the right side. Your right arm is resting on the ground and your head is resting on your arm. Bring your knees to your chest into fetal position. You can keep your eyes closed here. Use your arms to push yourself up into a seated position. You can cross your legs. You can have your legs out in front of you. Sit up tall through the spine, push your shoulders down away from the ears, and shine out through the crown of the head. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that I send you on your way feeling energized and ready to take on the world. Namaste.